Welcome to the show. Now, the National Assembly has transmitted 44 constitutional review bills to the 36 state houses of assembly for further legislative action. Now, the 44 bills were passed by both the Senate and House of Representatives earlier this year, and only the 44 bills were passed out of 68 earlier considered by the federal lawmakers during the Constitution amendment process. It is actually the fifth alteration. Now, the legislations were further presented to the clerks of the 36 state houses of assembly, and the focus is now on the state lawmakers as Nigerians hope that they will speedily take actions on bills and revert to the National Assembly before the transmission of the entire documents to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent. And the focus right now is on devolution of powers and how some of these critical bills can help to improve the lives of Nigerians, especially at the state and local government levels. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined in the studio by Dr. Adiya Odeh, who is the Convener of Democracy Vanguard, which is a civil society organization currently championing the quick concurrence of the 44 bills further to the state houses of assembly. And also to be joining us in the show is Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe, who is Nigeria's former ambassador to Austria and also a former two-term member of the House of Representatives. He's also a member of the Democracy Vanguard. He'll be joining us later in the show. So good to have you, Dr. Adiya, here on the show. And let's talk about the devolution of powers in these 44 bills. I mean, those are the specific areas that your organization is looking at, and the emphasis is on how the state lawmakers should ensure that they do not miss these golden opportunities to ensure that power goes more to Nigerians at the grassroots.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Absolutely. That's our concern as Democracy Vanguard, because this is the beauty of democracy, because we can change how things are organized. And our interest is for things to be organized in a way that accountability is to the people at the grassroots level. As everyone knows, we all live in local governments. And if I live in the local government area, I want the executives in the local government, the chairman, the councillors, I want them to be responsible to me. I want to be able to question them about what they are doing with the funds that have been allocated to me, because the funds are allocated to the Nigerian people. It is our money, and it's given to them to spend in trust for us. So we want power to go to that level. That's not what it's been, but we want that to change. And the National Assembly has been so good. They've passed the relevant bills. Now it's left for the state houses of assembly to do their work, to do the work that the Nigerian people have put them there to do. They should look at the people, not upwards, but downwards, at the people who put them there, to say, what do you want? And the people are saying, we want accountability, we want services. If the local government executives are not elected by us, if their funds are not within their control, we can't ask them about the funds. They would be relating with someone else for that. They won't ask us, hey, we've got this allocation coming. What do you want us to do with it? What's your priority as a people, as a community? That process in itself is unifying for the community, because the community has to come together to decide, we really want that bridge to the market built this time. We want toilets in the market. We want security in our schools. We think that there's too much robbery in this community. We want things stepped up so that we can feel safe. And they can say that to the executives because they come to them for votes. Yeah, they relate with them on their own funds. So that's what we want.
Yeah, and the National Assembly actually did a very good job by ensuring that voices of Nigerians were listened to. They held lots of public hearing where groups, including yours, all came out during those sessions to actually present bills that eventually made it. Now, is there any fear that the State Houses of Assembly may not concur on these local government bills, on even some powers that are being devolved to states, like the power to be able to operate electricity companies, and then to operate their own prisons, and then, of course, railways and all of that? Absolutely. Is there any particular fear on the local government, and why you're emphasizing on it?
Indeed. We're talking about interest here. Who benefits from the current system? Your guess is as good as mine, and we don't really have to guess. We know about the JAC, we know who controls the JAC. We only have to look at EFCC cases to see who has been pulled forward by EFCC to account for the monies from JAC. And in this case, it is the governors. As it stands now, the governors have a lot of control over the members.
State and local government joint account.
Exactly. And they control they have some level of influence, I'll call it influence, over the members of the State Houses of Assembly. So it's conceivable to think that the governors would want to influence them not to pass those bills, because they would be the losers. And that's why we want to put the people first in front of the members of the House. Think of the people, not the governors. That's what we are asking.
And let's talk about how much lobbying you're doing of these state lawmakers, because like you said, majority of them are under the control of state governors, and this is the time where people are heading towards party primaries, and the governors may be dangling party tickets before them. Do you think that you're doing enough lobbying to let the state lawmakers know that these bills are very dear to the Nigerian people at the grassroots, and it will be helpful if the local governments have financial autonomy, if the local governments operate as a tier of government, and even states, if the states are able to have the capacity to do what these bills are meant to help them do as passed by the National Assembly?
Yeah, indeed, the tickets will be dangled like carrots. But the good thing is that the primaries are happening before they will vote on the bills. So we are hoping that those carrots would have been given or lost by the time they come to vote. And we hope that by that time they will vote with their conscience. Those who have got tickets can vote with their conscience. And those who didn't get tickets have nothing to lose. So they can then decide to be counted when we are talking the history of Nigeria and accountability, that yes, I voted for the local government autonomy bills. So that's what we are hoping. But we are indeed doing quite a bit of lobbying. We have spoken at length to the members, to some of the members, to the speakers. And they are not bad people, and they know what is right, and they are keen to do what is right. It's just that they are logical people, and they are afraid, which I don't blame them. I would feel the same if I were in their shoes. But we do hope that they will do the right thing. We're also going further to talk about the bills, to really talk about the details of the bill and the freedoms that it provides to the people of Nigeria. For instance, one beautiful detail is that the funds for payment of teachers would be earmarked specially for teachers. So we won't have a situation where teachers remain unpaid for months on end. So we also hope to visit the state legislatures just to engage with the members and explain really the details of those bills. Yeah, because
it's not enough to just engage with the speakers only. Yeah. Well, I'll just ask you to hold on while we go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Sumner Sambo, and we are still discussing the issues of the transmission of 44 bills to the State Houses of Assembly for concurrence as passed by the National Assembly during the ongoing constitutional review process. And I still have Dr. Adiya Odeh, who is the Convener of Democracy Vanguard, which is a civil society organization currently championing the quick concurrence of those 44 bills forwarded to the 36 state houses of assembly. And also joining us now is Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe, who is Nigeria's former ambassador to Austria and also a former two-term member of the House of Representatives. He's also a member of the Democracy Vanguard. And we come to you, Ambassador. Let's talk about the importance of these bills transmitted. The key issues here which your organization is going after is devolution of powers, and we are saying revolutionary bills being passed by the National Assembly, but there is the fear out there because of the specific bills that deal with local government administration that the state governors may not allow them to pass, or the state houses of assembly may be muzzled into not granting this autonomy to the local governments. What's your view?
Well, thank you so very much for having me, and good afternoon, Nigeria. Well, I think at this point, if we actually want the kind of democracy that we see in other places, we travel all over the world, and when we go, we come back, we, eulogize others that, they are doing great things, and, but how are they doing it? They're doing it because governance starts from the bottom, going up to the top. I say this because I had a singular opportunity myself, when I was in the United States, to work for a local government, the mayor's office. I was in charge of housing department in the mayor's office, and I know what the kind of powers I had working for the local government, everything that concerned housing in that local government of the city of Dallas was right, on my table. So when you go to the city of Dallas today and everything is going well, traffic is moving well, all things, there's lights, there's, roads and stuff like that. It's not happening from Washington. It's taking place from the mayor's office in Dallas. So if we want things like that to happen in Nigeria, we must devolve power to the local governments. Of course, you know that the issue of power is when you have it, you don't want to give it away. So there's that tendency, that of course the governors, what have you, would prefer to, have local government chairmen, come with caps in hands to sit down in their offices and beg all through the day. And the governor would jump out and say, oh, I've been called to the villa. I have to go to Abuja now. You come back next week when I return from Abuja. That's not how, it should be. So there will be that resistance.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Your former colleagues, or your colleagues at the National Assembly have done this in such a way that if these bills are centered by 24 out of 36 state houses of assembly, we are going to see the local governments operating independently without control of state governors. Do you think that power can easily be allowed to be given like that? Because state governors want to still have some form of control. And don't forget the debate here among some of the state governors is that the local governments should be within their purview and should not be seen as a third tier of government. They should be allowed to create local governments and control them.
Definitely it's not going to be easy, but hard things are done by hard people. Uneasy things are done by people who want to see the right thing done. It's not about the interest of one specific governor or what have you. This is in the interest of Nigerians, the common people who vote for these governors, who vote for these members or what have you. You see, the National Assembly has done its own bit. Because at the National Assembly, they've realized, that being independent as a legislature at the federal level, they have been able to do so much without being controlled or monitored or cajoled by the president. So why wouldn't they want it for, the local governments, the local government councils? And I tell you what, so many of them who are governors today were doing this same thing we're talking about today. We're strangling the local governments. But when they came to the National Assembly, they say, oh, I wish I had known better. I would have allowed the local government to operate, independently. And that's why we're fighting. That's why we're battling. That's why we're going around talking to people. And that's why what you're doing today, putting us on air, so that others could hear. People at the local governments can hear. The state legislatures can hear, to know that we are watching over them, that the buck is on their table now. And again, you're talking about governors, as Mr. Adiya said. Primaries are taking place, between now and the next 2-3 weeks. It will be over, okay? Many of these governors are not coming back. So it is only somebody who doesn't want to stand up to be counted will say, because, oh, my governor has said, a governor that is a lame duck governor
that's already on his way out.
Okay. Because of him, you will frustrate the citizens of your state. Those people, I mean, anybody that does that, has to be stoned in public for sake of.
Okay, Dr. Adiya, let's talk about the failures of the local government system in Nigeria as it stands right now, which is making us to call for these reforms. After the 1976 local government reforms, a lot of Nigerians had thought that there will be some form of security, provision of, basic facilities and all of that, so that the states will operate at their own pace and the federal government operating at its own pace. But we've seen that tier of government running into trouble. Talk to us about how this failure of the local government system to work well has led to even insecurity and then poor, educational levels within the local councils.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know when you last went to your local government secretariat, but I suggest you try it as an experiment. I would bet you that you won't find more than 5% of the staff there. The people are not there. They don't go to work there because it's all about the money. And the money comes from the center. And when the money comes, it's barely enough to do anything. So why do you even go there? So we have people who are responsible for the health system. We have people who are responsible for the educational system. We have councillors as well responsible for these things. But they don't have the wherewithal to do what they are supposed to do. And so these systems are falling apart. It's really tragic because we are going to see, we are indeed seeing the results now. How many children are in school in Nigeria, in primary schools at the moment? And if you go to your health center, primary health care center, who will you see there? Who will provide services for you? You hardly find that. You sit on a bench, people on admission are lying down on benches.
Some of them even on the floor.
Some of them even on the floor.
And all of that.
Yes, and the people are paying taxes. That's the tragic part. They pay taxes every day in so many ways, but they are not receiving services because nobody feels responsible. The duty bearers don't feel responsible for providing those services. And for us, service delivery is where it's at because that's where the government touches the people. When we talk about democracy dividend, we are not talking about 2,000 naira or bags of rice. We are talking about services for the people. We are talking about a road to drive to your house. We are talking about you go to bed at night and you are confident that you will wake up in the morning in your bed, not in some forest somewhere.
Yeah, because some people are also saying that this will take care of local government security and all of that. But talk to us about how fanciful it is at times to pass these laws and all of a sudden they are not implemented. If we get these laws, will this really solve the problem, or it will just be hanging there and then we'll have issues of corruption at the local government levels because they are no longer accountable to governors or to Abuja?
Well, for me, the first thing is let us have the laws. It's better to have the laws than not to have it. So if you don't have it, people will have excuses to do the wrong things because they are not guided. Now, talking about, laws being passed and not being implemented. Of course, you've seen that in the past constitutional amendments, the issue of local government elections is right there in the Constitution. And how many local governments today have, elected members? What happens, as when she was talking about people not being in the office and all that? Why? Because what happens is that the governor sits down, dissolves local governments, appoints so-called caretaker committees, and then caretaker committee members just use it as an opportunity to even provide, quote unquote, jobs to their cronies.
So
they just write a list of people, and more so, I have seen situations in local governments where even those names are written, and you go to those local governments, there are no people like that. These people just collect the money and put in their pockets. It's because you have left a lacuna. So whoever comes says, "This is my own opportunity, to enrich myself." So the first thing is the law should be there, and when the law is there, the good thing is that the state assemblies have oversight functions over the local government. So if a state assembly decides to let its state deteriorate, then it becomes their business, isn't it? And the people of the state will now look at them and say, "Oh, do we want to vote these people again when they come after 4 years?" So there are checks and balances.
Okay.
But the key is that through media, advocacy, and through NGOs and organizations like ours, we are beginning to educate the people the more so that they know that their vote counts. Their vote is what decides what happens within their communities. So if they refuse to obey the law, if they refuse to implement the laws, wait for them. 4 years after, you vote them out.
Okay, as we try to round off this conversation, Dr. Adiya, let's talk about the possibility of these bills also not being passed. Because if it is not passed, what will happen? We've seen this being done previously. How do you think you can mobilize more Nigerians to get into this struggle, to talk to their lawmakers, to pass it? But if the lawmakers don't also pass it, what will be the next step?
We don't want to think about that possibility, that they will not be passed.
But it's there.
But even if they were not passed, I mean, this is not the first time. We will still go back to keep the battle on, because for us, it's something that must be done. So we will continue to fight for it. There is always the next alteration, and we will still pursue it at that alteration. But I want to believe the bill will be passed. And I want Nigerians to ask the governors when they go to them to canvass for votes. Many of them are canvassing votes for other positions. Ask them, have you asked your legislators to vote these bills? These are the bills we are concerned about. When the members go to Nigerians to ask for votes, I want Nigerians to tell them, we want those bills to be passed. If those bills are not passed, we will not vote for you. Absolutely. That's what I want Nigerians to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you've received tremendous support from President Muhammadu Buhari. He has brought executive orders. He just wants these local governments to operate very well. Absolutely. Because I remember some time ago when some governors went to him on this issue of insecurity, he directed them back. Have you gone back to the communities to talk to your local government chairman, to talk to traditional rulers in your localities, to talk to district heads and all of that? What more should we do to ensure that these issues laid to rest once and for all?
Well, let me give you this quote. Good governance is a task that must be done. As far as I'm concerned, we have no other way. We have no other place to go but making sure that good governance is a task that we must stand up to be counted. This is what we will talk to. I mean, like we said, elections are coming. Primaries will be here, and some of us are card-carrying members of parties, and we want to demand from those people, are you going to support local government autonomy? Are you going to support administrative autonomy and finance autonomy for the local government? Whatever you say will determine where I will cast my vote. And we will continue to educate the electorate so that even when they emerge as candidates for these parties, these questions will continue to haunt them. Until they do it, we will never let them rest. whether it passes now or not. But I do believe, I have no in my dictionary. I do believe that it will pass.
Because I mean, you need 24 out of 36. That's where the fear actually lies. And
does it mean that 24 states cannot pass what is good for Nigeria, and then we fold our hands and look at them and clap for them and let them ride us off the streets? No way. We can't do that.
Before we go, I just want to ask you, do you support states creating local governments, or the local government should be created by the federal system through the National Assembly as it's domiciled in the Constitution? Very quickly.
I think this is a matter for the National Assembly to decide. We have our representatives who we have voted. We have given them our agency to act on our behalf and decide what is best for Nigeria.
Okay. So should we remove the local government, 774 of them, from the Constitution and allow the states to create and control more, or we should leave them in the Constitution and allow them to be treated as a third tier of government, as some governors have been saying?
I hope you heard her and you heard her clearly. That there is a body that has the charge of the Constitution have put the charge of doing this, and that is National Assembly. What that means is that even if that is what they want to do, they will come and have meetings with us,
public hearings here and there.
I'm a voter. You come and talk to me, my local, representative, both senators and House of Rep member, comes to meetings and asks us if that is what the people want, if that is the choice of the people, then let them do it. But for now, what is in the Constitution is what is there, and that is what we know.
And also, you mentioned one key thing here, that every Nigerian comes from a local government. But some Nigerians don't see themselves that way. They just feel that local governments don't matter. I mean, it's only when maybe you need a birth certificate or something like that. How do you conscientize them to know the importance of a functional local government system?
I think this is one of the misplaced burden that we have, because the states are so powerful. If we don't look to the states to provide everything, if the local government can provide services for us, then we will look to the local government. So for instance, if you want something done in your state, I'm sure you will not be thinking of going to meet your local government chairman. If you know the governor, you tell the governor and it will be done. So of course you don't reckon with the local government. But by the time the local governments are empowered, then people will realize that yes, that's where the services are provided from.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Adiya Odeh is the convener of the Democracy Vanguard, one of the groups advocating for the passage of these 44 bills sent to the State Houses of Assembly, and Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe, Nigeria's former ambassador to Austria and former two-term House of Rep members, is a member of the Democracy Vanguard too. We can only wish you well as you continue with your advocacy, and hope that the federal lawmakers will do the right thing, because we are all watching as Nigerians. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much.